Hey there, berries. It seemed like a lot of you seemed to enjoy the previous episode that I did of Game 1 of Mad versus G2 on the upper finals of LEC 2023. So we're going to have a look at Game 2. I'm not sure who wins this game, so this is going to be pretty interesting to me. I had a very quick peek at draft when going into this video because I wanted to know what the situation, particularly in the bot lane, was going to be. But it does look like it is going to be Jinx, Nautilus on G2 versus, I can't remember who it was. It was like Rakan, I think, and someone else. I can't remember. We're about to find out. Kaiser? Is it Kaiser Rakan in the bot lane? So it's a little bit different from, only a little bit different really, from what we saw in the first game where G2 took Lissandra to try and counter the Rakan. So I don't know if Lissandra was banned or they just opted not to go for it this time. Yeah, so yeah, G2's on the right hand side. Just had to put that one out there because they swap places. So G2 going with Nautilus this time instead of the Lissandra. Jinx is still going to be quite aggressive in lane like Kalista can be, but a little bit better late game scaling I feel like, and just a tiny little bit earlier weaker. Both mid lanes are exactly the same as the last game too, where we saw Tristana kind of jump on the Azir level 1, which opened up a rotation for G2 to, with their support, to get a kill in the mid lane. But yeah, both roaming supports here. I'm gonna move my camera over a little bit. So both roaming supports here, both hard engaging. Kaiser also can follow up on hard engage. Jinx can kind of do that too, but just not as far. Jinx running Ghost instead of the Cleanse, so that could end up being a little bit of a factor later on. Jinx generally does like running Ghost because it allows her, once she gets her passive to proc, her movement speed is absolutely absurd. Also, she doesn't really have a dash of her own. She's got her traps to kind of like protect herself a little bit, but Kaiser has a little bit of a movement speed boost with her E to be able to get away. So in like on the level 1 situation, I feel like it's going to be probably slightly in favor of G2 in terms of being able to push in the wave. Jinx is generally pretty good at pushing in level 1. Kaiser's range does put her at a disadvantage to Jinx as well, since Jinx, you might see here, you're getting a little bit of free trade onto the Kaiser, but Mickey, they're going for a hook. Not sure why, but using that pretty early should, in theory, like open them up a little bit to vulnerability and the hook being on cooldown. Looks like there's going to be a level 2 fight here. Maybe. I mean, look like Mad had hit level 2 just before G2, so I thought maybe something might end up happening there, but nothing ends up happening. But yeah, if you look at the summers on Mad, they got very kind of defensive summoners. It's like the Cleanse and the Exhaust, for example, versus like the Ignite on the Nautilus. So I think in the actual, that hook though, was that a bait? I don't know if that was a bait or not, but I feel like Kaiser shouldn't be getting hooked like that. I think maybe she was looking to try and trade onto the Jinx, but Kaiser's overstepping the mark quite a bit there to get a hook on. That could have been a lot worse, I feel like. It ends up being like a kind of an even trade. Rakan reacting really quick with the E, W, and then E and back again, but I feel like that probably shouldn't have happened in the first place. I don't think that was actually a bait. Got Mad's jungle now coming down, but Rakan's already used W, so there is a ward here in the river, so G2 shouldn't get caught off. Worst case is that Nautilus can hook himself to a wall in order to use that as a dash to get out. Bot lane are trying to freeze lane. This is a lot different from the first game where basically G2 jungle had more priority in the bot lane. This time, the waves in the bot lane are very kind of like it's in the middle, so there isn't like a jungle isn't able to just freely walk into the enemy jungle for free without denying like XP to the enemy bot lane, if that makes sense. We've got Mad currently pushing in a little bit deeper now into the bot lane, but G2's jungle is on the opposite side of the map, so it would have to be a kind of a 2v2 disaster here for Mad to actually lose something here. Looks like Mad's mid laner isn't doing too great, but the trade back is actually pretty good. It ends up being kind of like 50-50 there in the mid, but both mid laners low on HP, which last time ended in the benefit to G2 with the rotation able to happening mid, but this time without bot lane being freed up, Nautilus is actually stuck on the turret, so he's not even able to consider roaming towards the Azir and looking for a gank. But there's a lot of activity under the bot turret right now, which unfortunately can't see. Be interested to see what kind of poking situation was going on there. Jinx is running lower on mana, so she's going to be finding wave management a little bit harder. Looks like Rakan is now wandering off into the river. And then it looks like Nautilus is actually engaged onto the Kaiser as Rakan was wandering into the river to ward. Not sure what happened there, but that's a disaster for Mad. I don't know how that situation happens where you're talking on comms and your support is going up into the river to ward and then the AD carry gets caught. That's like really solo queue-esque. That really should not be happening, I feel, at this level of play. Kaiser being on 50% HP already basically means that they can't really do a huge amount in the bot lane. But I will say that they're out of man. Like, the Nautilus can't hook, but there's a decent wave push in here. So they will get prio on recalls. You might see Rakan and Kaiser push in the next wave. They're looking to interrupt recall. Look, Rakan was trying to interrupt the Nautilus recall, but unfortunately he wasn't able to do that. I think this wave clear, yeah, it's going to take too long. So their mad bot lane's going to recall now. So the timings are off. So you can see like Nautilus right now, he's now walking out of the fountain and down into mid lane. And he's using his Q actually to hook onto walls to get into the lane a bit quicker. So it's going to free up Nautilus for a little bit here. So Jinx doesn't have to worry about anything because their bot lane recalled later. So Jinx is going to be into this lane, bot lane first. Nautilus is in the mid lane first as well. Are they able to, this small window here of 10 seconds or so, are they able to do anything here without Rakan being able to interfere? I think Nautilus walked over a controlled. Yeah, a bit of movement here. Looks like top has been threatening to dove, so both supports are going to have to move up to here. I think Nautilus maybe noticed that a little bit too late. So he's now actually going to be slower to this situation than he would have liked to have been. And the pathing of Nautilus here is really not good. Having to burn flashes just to be able to get into the wave to allow Kled to get the farm. A little bit of a hook play here, but they really can't get that much off of this. Azir is wandering up towards top 2, but the investment into top lane is quite massive now for Mad. Like, they have to get something off here for this to be worth it. I mean, Mickey's already used his Nautilus has used his flash already. That's a really nice fear from Fiddlesticks. Have they got any more tools here to be able to catch up? I feel like Nautilus is... Yeah, I don't understand the pathing there. Like, the objective was done. So Nautilus had made it, got back into the lane. He had to use his flash in order to allow Kled to get CS. And he knows that there's 3 to 4 people coming up to top side. I don't know why you would take that path. I think you just have to either stay at that top lane tower until you know, like, you know, the player, some of the mad players have gone off, or you just recall are there and you go back to base. I think it's extremely greedy. But you know you haven't got like map priority on that area just to start walking through the jungle like that, especially when your flash is on cooldown. It was a BM recall as well. Like, he got out in the Fiddlestick sphere was huge, but the Nautilus just kind of greed recalled, I think, and then got caught out still. So yeah, a little bit of weird greediness there from Nautilus that shouldn't have happened. Got to give credit to Rakan in order to get to the top lane situation before the Nautilus, even though the Rakan had a worse recall. So really good job from Mad here. Really good job from Rakan on the rotations. Now it looks like there's going to be having it down on the bot side. Fiddlesticks Fear coming through here. Rakan is extremely squishy. Unfortunately, no wards in the bot lane to actually identify that that was potentially going to happen. Yeah, that was a really good gank there from Fiddlesticks. So far, Fiddle's been playing really well. I don't know what just happened to Caps. I think it might be a Craps game. Yeah, so I'll have to check on the... I didn't pay attention in terms of which support got back into bot lane quicker. But, yeah, maybe Rakan after Nautilus side took a little bit too long getting back into the lane in order to ward up for it to identify that there was going to be any gank here too. But this was too easy. They had no idea that Fiddlesticks was here by the looks of things either. Yeah, there's not much you can do in that situation. Like, the Rakan's completely locked up and he's extremely squishy here in the mid lane. I don't know what on earth is going on here. I don't know what Caps is thinking there, to be honest. Little bit of grief. So it was a good play back on the bot lane to make up for what happened top. But yeah, I still would argue that that area probably should have been warded. They should have identified, like, you know, the warding situation once the Rakan got back into lane should have been better. Now, Mad can see that G2 are doing the dragon here. There is a ward under the dragon. Stuff's happening top lane. Wow, look at this intense combat. Wow, top laners are so fun. Looks like there's going to be a gank up there. Looks like there's a fight in the river too. I wish we would pan over into the river and see exactly what's going on. Looks like Mad is conceding the dragon. because Ivan is top, which makes sense. There is going to be a herald being used at some point here, though, so it could be first turret for top. But you know, in this situation, we know that Fiddlestick's ulti is on cooldown. They've just done the dragon. Mad are probably going to be playing a little bit safer down here because they might have not seen Fiddlestick's recall. So they're probably thinking that there's a chance still that Fiddlesticks could be on the bot side of the map, and they're just trying to be a little bit more careful about that. But basically trading dragon for top turret, I think is fine. I don't think it's the craziest thing to happen. It's just a little bit of extra gold already towards Mad. I think overall Mad would be quite happy with the situation right now as long as they don't get towered over. Nautilus is trying to be a pesky rat and clearing out ward on bot sides, I think, just to make their bot lane a bit more paranoid about Fiddlesticks ganks. So you're probably going to see that Mad aren't necessarily going to be pushing up in the bot lane as much, maybe. Nautilus is also level 6 and Rakan's level 5, so they cannot fight this. Mad has to play more passively here. What am I watching? What? I'm kind of speechless. What is Caps doing? He teleports into 2 people and then dies. And then what is this inting, man? This is a complete opposite to game 1. Like G2 are literally just inting. Just trying to think, what was the third? The Nautilus death top was really bad. Those 2 deaths there were really bad, and yeah, and Cat was trying to 1v1. Is it all of G2 deaths are just like really bad? Like this is like literally watching solo queue goofballs, like no communication. I don't know what's going wrong here for G2, but just seems like utter disrespect for the enemy here after they had such a sort of game 1. But that was really bad. I don't know what that was. Anyway, and the bot lane situation, both bot laners have recall, supports are freed up. They look like they're paying more attention towards mid lane. Summoners have been used by both mid laners, so it's going to be interesting to see if that is going to be the next area fighting around the Azir and Tristana, because summoners have been blown. Fiddlestick's ulti is on cooldown too, which they're going to be aware of, so they got time to play around the map with this jungle ulti being on cooldown. They're trying to get like vision right now. There isn't any objectives up anytime soon. Still 2 minutes 30 for any objectives, so it's just going to be just generic ward clearing, not really like objective vision. And that was actually a really neat, like nice catch there from Nautilus, using the blast cone to get over the wall to hook the Rakan. But I would worry about the situation after that though, because Mad have reacted quickly to that, and if that hook were to actually land, I don't know, it ends up in a pretty messy situation, I think, because of the player deficit. I think actually that might not have been a good play. If that hook were to land, I do wonder what would have happened after that, if that would have actually got into Mad's favor. So Mad right now trying to deny jungle. Lots of just back and forth movement between supports. Not sure, I think they're a little bit not sure if they should go into bot side or into mid, and this is the mid lane fight I was talking about. How about Tristana's flash was on cooldown, and it's likely that's probably something going to be happening around either Tristana or Azir, and that was probably the next fight of contention. Nautilus is going down here too. Don't think Jinx can get anything back there. So yeah, both supports playing around this mid lane, identifying after the previous fight with the Tristana TP with the summoners being down. That is a really nice shuffle. Fiddlesticks using his ulti to try and get out of that nearly kind of works, but yeah, G2, this is kind of an opposite of the last game, really. I say the explosion button got hit a little bit later, but so far, this game is in Mad's favor. Now, let's have a look at it from G2's perspective. How can they get it back into this game, particularly from kind of their side of things after we look at this fight? So this is just a really nice clean engage here. There's you know, there's way more Mad people showing up here than G2. It's a really nice hit a sung knock up, you know, identifying, as we mentioned, how Tristana has just no escape. This should in theory be a reasonably easy kill to get if you are able to lock up the Tristana with no flash. Yes, she has rocket jump, but it's a slow dash and still interruptible by a couple of things, including like Rakan W. Yeah, so I'm missing that little engage there. It's a shame that's not up, but there's just too many Mad people around. There's nothing that he can do. So yeah, I think Hillson I think he's just been better on the rotations here compared to the first game. The Rakan, it's just been doing better going across the map and stuff. Next point of contention is probably going to be this dragon. It's spawning in 5 seconds. Be interesting to see how these wards get placed here. There is a scuttle done for G2, so it's giving them some extra free vision. They're going to get rid of these wards here. There's a controlled getting rid of it too. I think the zombie ward is probably on the Rakan, helping give a little bit extra vision when they're clearing out. Solid ward in the junction there, just to see people coming up. Just nice deep vision to see if they're actually going to be able to contest this or not. I think Mad kind of needs to pull the trigger on Dragon at some point, because like very soon before this Fiddlesticks ulti comes back on off cooldown. I think they should have probably pulled it about 10 seconds ago. Like Fiddlesticks having no ulti on an objective pull is pretty massive. Looks like Fiddlesticks is going to be up in 3 seconds, but with the deep vision that they managed to get in, at least they can see that they're not going to contest this Dragon. They've given this one up. Jinx firing at her ulti to try and steal it, but that's not going to happen. G2, on the other hand, are probably going to be looking at Herald, but can they get there in time? No. I think they could have probably had a little bit of opportunity if they're a bit more decisiveness to go for the Herald. And Nautilus is completely in no man's land. Nice flash, nice Q to the turret, so he is going to be able to get out. Uses his flash though, so G2 is just using lots of summoner resources. Nautilus having no flash does open up an opportunity to do Herald. There's still going to be a threat now of Fiddlesticks ulti, since that ulti's back off cooldown, but Mad have mid lane priority, so they can shove in the wave, and it means like free Herald. It's going to take a little while for Ivan to do, but it will eventually be done. So yeah, I think G2 had a window of opportunity to do Herald as Mad were doing Dragon, but I think that's what Mickey, the Nautilus, wanted to do on G2. I think Nautilus wanted to come and do Herald, but it seemed once again like miscommunication about what's going on, because it looked like Nautilus was like, let's do Herald, and everyone else was just kind of like, no. I'd say like G2 are playing very, very kind of solo queue right now. It seems like the communication in this one has fallen apart completely. I'm not sure what's going on at all. They're looking like a completely different team to the first one. Okay, Tristana gets away a bit nice at the time. Azir wasn't able to use ulti. So yeah, it's gonna be kind of like, you know, when you finish laning phase in solo queue, bot lane ends up going into mid, and then we've got that kind of situation happening here too, in a way, where you got like the Nautilus and the Jinx mid, you got Kaiser mid, but this time you got like Rakan on the side, Trust backing up this Azir, trying to make sure, warding for the Azir as well to keep pressure on this Tristana, because we've got a 3-0 Azir versus a 0-3 Tristana. The Rakan just kind of shadowing the Azir in order to ward, to make sure that the Azir can't be ganked. And then if a gank does happen, if a 2v2 does happen, Tristana, say, and Nautilus shows up, I think Mad wins that just because of the deficit on Tristana. And Trist has no ulti as well. Herald being pushed down into mid, so we're going to get a mid lane push in here now. Let's see how both teams kind of set up in order to defend and attack this. So this tier 1's definitely going down. How do they play off this? Herald looking like it will charge onto the tier 2 turret. It's going to go down to half HP, but Fiddlesticks is always going to be a threat with ultis, and because of the unfortunately not that much deep vision, and you got these Scryer blooms that are around the map here too, that are going to be make it easier to clear out wards when you're in jungle. Hillsong is trying something here on caps, but I don't see the point. Intimidating him a little bit off Grom. I think he could have probably been a little bit more patient then, maybe. I think Rakan is just sitting around there just to be a little bit annoying. So we've got Baron up in 1 minute. We've got another Dragon in 2 minutes. So I imagine the next fight will happen soon. You'll probably start seeing both supports now resetting. I think Nautilus was already reset. And start getting some wards around one of these objectives that they kind of want to focus on doing. Maybe, I think G2 could use a support ward somewhere in the middle of the lane to see where rotations are. Nautilus hasn't actually placed a ward in the center of lane. There is that little one in that brush there though that they are getting away with, which didn't get cleared out, but I think Nautilus at some point will need a ward in the middle of the lane to kind of see rotations a bit easier. Especially when both objectives are kind of spawning at the same time. It could end up being, you know, one team does Dragon and the one team ends up doing Baron. Not 100% sure if there's enough damage on either team to pull that off though, on the Baron, but we'll see. A lot of great control here though. Rakan using his Q to poke the brushes just to see if there's anyone in the brush without having to phase check. But I would argue the Q range is so small anyway. If he gets hooked here, he's in a bit of an iffy situation here. Rakan being really up front and kind of in their face. You got the Ivan shield to kind of back up and be a little bit more defensively, but really posturing aggro Rakan here. Just some poke coming in here from the Kaiser. I think the main threat that I think Mad are worried about is Fiddlestick's ulti, because that could easily be devastating. And you can see how the Mad isn't really grouped up as much, right? Because they don't want to get hit by a 5-man ulti, so they kind of spread themselves out a little bit. They're kind of close, but not close enough to get absolutely wrecked by Fiddle. Nautilus is getting a little bit worried that they might end up doing Baron soon. Tier 2 turret on G2 goes down. I think Nautilus has actually run out of wards, so they aren't actually able to. They got controlled at the back of the pit now actually, but they haven't got any more wards left on Nautilus, so he's gonna have to go back and get wards. Rakan has a full stack of 4, and I think Dragon has been called, and I think that's the right move. Mad still has a decent gold advantage, and you just want to take the easiest objective that you can. I think it looked like it was starting to get a little bit complicated around the Baron. I think the Fiddlesticks is able to defend Baron quite easily with the ulti behind the pit. So just get the free objective, and that's Dragon down. Now, if Mad wanted to, they could start setting up around the Baron properly, if they wanted to. Because of the Fiddlesticks threat at Baron though, maybe the best play would just be to use the TPs that we've got here and just try and split up the map a little bit. Be interesting to see where the supports are rotating to. So I think G2 just getting a forward position around here in Baron. I think if they, oh my goodness, that is so unlucky for Renekton to just walk into 2 people there like that. I honestly think that G2 probably thought that it was going to be wait, are they actually going to empty the collapse in here? Shuffle. This could be good, but Azir kind of got caught out early. Stopwatch coming through. Hillsong comes in with the ulti and completely whiffs everything. That is a disaster there from Rakan. So you can see the why he was trying to. Okay, that's a really nice shuffle. And G2 is starting to fall apart. But you saw that if they do a replay, which they probably will, just have a look at the Rakan initiation there. It's just a little bit too panicky, I think. Because by the time he actually gets in, he does get 2 flashes to be fair, which is pretty nice, but he doesn't actually land any of his crowd control. I think if he actually walks into that situation and doesn't pop his ulti just as quick, he might actually get a better flank off there, so that the ult doesn't fizzle out. So Mad ends up getting the Baron. So yeah, if you look at this fight and watch the Rakan, I think he could probably wait a couple of seconds before popping his ulti. I think G2 are always trying to look to get out of this situation. I don't feel like they're trying. They tried to turn it on the Azir, but the stopwatch was actually pretty huge. But yeah, just the early flash it is what kind of screwed it all up. Because if he actually just waits until he gets into flash range of the enemy AD carry on top of Jinx, then it's just a guaranteed charm and then crowd control following up, and then you're not having to rely on a shuffle. It's just a really, really nice Azir cover up, honestly, for what should have been a better Rakan play. And why is there a spinning crab on a transition? Does anyone know what that's about? I don't know. Yeah, it's just the Rakan engage there was just not quite what you want to see. It's just too early of a flash, just too early to make the jump. Just get onto the flash directly onto them, and then they're instantly charmed, and then you can do your W, and it's just free stuff. So 2 dragons, Mad got Baron. That's like, I don't like this desperation kind of like random Rakan W stuff. I think you just chill. Like if you look at Azir on the map, he is pushing in the side lane quite nicely, right? Like I know Mad are feeling very confident and very far ahead, but I don't feel like you should still like look to randomly W forward like that. The odds of that hitting anything are 0%. It's just a waste, right? I think you can posture a little bit further ahead and maybe threat a little bit, but don't waste your W. So Rakan, I'm mainly looking at Rakan here because he's still posturing in a very, very aggressive position. The Azir's still getting to push in bot. There's like a 1-3-1 here going on here from Mad. They do get the mid inhib. It looks like they're probably going to get the bot lane inhib as well. It looks like G2 are kind of just giving up everything here right now. At this point in the game, I don't see G2 coming back into it. Nautilus misses his hook. I mean, if you're Nautilus here, like, who are you hooking? You can't. Their team is. You have to go for like Azir, right? And it's just a desperation play here from Nautilus. But I feel like they should have probably done that before the inhibs dropped. Because if you feel like you have to engage during the, like at that point, you just give up your inhibs and have to defend it at the double turret, or you go in way earlier. I think that engage was just way too late. I think it's now absolutely just game over. I don't see how G2 can defend this. But it's really weird seeing like the game 1 and game 2, like the difference between the two games. It's just like game 1, Mad. I wouldn't say like Mad inted. It was just the game 1 is just like G2 just played the map way better, and they probably had a way better draft as well. Like seeing that the bot lanes didn't do great. I think maybe like Azir and their top laner in the last game, Mad could have done better. Looks like they are going to be able to defend the base though. Looks like their base pushing has failed. I think that Mad just has to leave it. Just don't in. You've got 3 inhibs down and a Nexus turret, right? That's not gonna hit. I mean, it will hit, but like it's gonna not kill the Kaiser. She's already healed up. Yeah, you just play it safer. You got 3 inhibs down and a turret down. You just do the dragon. Maybe you do the next Baron when that pops up. Take as much enemy jungle as you can, and just, you know, just chill at that point. Maybe this is how Mad throws though. Desperate TP cup. I don't understand why Azir would teleport. It looks like Mad just wants this game over and done with as quickly as possible. I don't agree with using the teleports here at all. Azir and Renekton coming with the teleport with the siege minions here. I don't know why. I guess they're kind of worried that they're going to be farming up the super creep, so they're going to be building up gold and stuff that way, but they're going for a full-on 5v5 hit. Nautilus is going to have to go hooking for an Azir or a Kaiser here. They're all whacking the ulti down. Like, he has to engage right now, right? I don't know what he's waiting for. He has to just go in for it. It's not a great hook. And Fiddlesticks is already dead. The G2 are just falling apart here. It's now going to be GG. Yeah, that was a completely different. That looked like Mad was generally in full control that game, mainly because G2 just absolutely ran it down. I don't understand what happened that game with G2. It was a completely different team. Like the random, I say like the bot lanes didn't really do much that game. That game was just primarily on. No, I would say the bot. I mean, okay. So it wasn't like Mad did anything. It was more like G2 just did everything wrong. Tristana going for the 1v1 in mid, losing. Tristana randomly TPing into mid, dying. Fiddlesticks trying to recover that situation, dies. I think the couple, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get back to the points or not at all, but there was a bot lane situation where Kaiser got caught out when Rakan was going up into the river. We didn't see it on screen, but you could see from the minimap and the health bars that Kaiser was in the middle of the lane by herself. Rakan had gone into the river and she got hooked by like Nautilus and went down to like half HP straight away. So that was probably the worst thing that bot lane did, because from that point onwards, it made that recall staggered between the bot lanes. So it meant that Nautilus was able to come out onto the map quicker, and Jinx was able to go into bot lane without having to worry about much, right? But the difference is on the recalls, is that even though G2 had a 10-second head start on Nautilus roam, Nautilus ended up going up to the wrong place. So Mad had already made a decision to make a play onto top lane. G2 failed to identify that quick enough. Nautilus tried to come up topside to kind of rectify that situation. He wasn't able to, and then he had to use his flash to get under the turret, but that enabled his top lane in order to farm. So that was okay. But then the random pathing through the jungle when they had no priority, when there was basically 4 members of Mad up on top sides, Yeah, so that and he was saved. Fiddlesticks did a fantastic fear to disengage, and then Nautilus just being recalled in the brush, and then that was it. So that was really odd play there. That kind of started stuff because the Nautilus no flash, Nautilus random dying, giving first blood for absolutely no reason. That was like really big question marks, and then it just then they responded really quickly. So the dive on bot side was really good with the Fiddlesticks ulti, and they managed to salvage up a little bit, but at the same time, G2's mid laner ran it down mid. So it kind of offset any advantage that they had gained from doing that fantastic dive on bot side, just because Tristana got kind of cocky in 1v1. This is the death I was talking about. There's absolute BM recall here. After he has no flash, he already had to use his hook towards the wall. If he doesn't stand there for like a second, he might even get out, honestly. Like, just the complete disrespect here this game from G2, I think. I think that's the main reason why Mad have won. And Mad just played solidly with the lead that they had. I think there are probably opportunities for G2 to come back into it, like the gank that they did bot, but it's just the cockiness from the other members of the team. So yeah, I think Rakan was just better on rotations overall this game. Identifying, you know, top lane was the area to be, whereas Nautilus ended up being bot side mid. Yeah, there isn't really anything else to mention really here. It was just kind of, once again, it was kind of just after about 15 minutes, there wasn't really a huge amount for Mad to do. It was just, you know, objective. They got a little bit greedy, I felt like, in their base. I felt like yeah, here's the 1v1 in the mid lane, which I don't understand what happens here. And then there's a random teleport. Are we going to see this? What is this play? Like, what? There is no minions here, and there's no red minions there, right, for Tristana, and his jungle is nowhere near. I don't know what he's doing. Fiddlesticks then ults to salvage this, and it's what is going on? That is so cute. I don't even know. I don't know. And then this is a really good Rakan rotation here, like coming into it. Really nice locking up on the Tristana because the Tristana wasted summoners. And yeah, Rakan did a good job pinpointing things. There were a couple of mechanical things like in the top lane situation with the fail flash or ulti, but generally I think this one, generally better bot lane one on the map, but I would still say Mad look weaker in the 2v2. Like, that was kind of gross. I mean, honestly, if Nautilus was in the top lane situation sooner and identified that he needed to be top sooner with the 10-second extra advantage that he had, I do wonder how much of, like, you know, Nautilus dies level 1 gives first blood and stuff like that. Because in the actual 2v2 in the bot lane, G2 won that because of how Kaiser got caught by herself when Rakan went into the river, right? There's like no need for that ever to happen. Once again, like, it's not even like it's something that shouldn't be happening, right? It's just a gross misplay. Whereas we didn't really see any gross misplays, I don't think, from the G2 bot side. I think G2 bot side played the actual 2v2 pretty well, and generally pretty solid. It was just Rakan was just better at the rotation, I think, and that's just what kind of just started the chain. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this kind of video. I'll look at finishing up the rest of the series. So yeah, and if you guys want me to do more series, maybe cover, I think there's the loser bracket finals, which is a Mad versus Fnatic at some point, and then G2 in the finals versus the winner of that. I can cover those if you guys like this kind of stuff, and yeah, all the best, guys.